Debbie Lombardo. Scott Billman,
Here.
Bill Hanley,
Here.
and Tim Donovan.
Here.
Now we'll move on to our regular attendees, starting with Peter Berlow,
Present.
Jack McMahon,
Present.
Fawad Arab, Charlie Martirano, Damon Sykes,
Present.
Damon Rand,
Present.
David Hill,
Present.
Doug Foltz,
Present.
Kelly Lee,
Present.
Matt Adam,
Present.
Jennifer Sustakowski,
Present.
Jack Cox,
Present.
Bill Ferguson,
Present.
Lisa Fode,
Present.
Stephen Waldvogel,
Here.
Justin Steiner,
Present.
Christine Wingo.
Present.
Thank you, everybody. So now we'll move on to anybody I didn't call, starting with anybody in the room. Is there anybody in the room?
Yep,
Mr. Nate Martin?
Nate Martin, Commissioner. Todd McAllister, Buffalo Police.
Alexa Wajed, Edom Park.
Idris Wajid, Edom Park.
Michael Woles, Buffalo Water.
Thank you, everybody. Now on the call, it looks like we have Carol Byrne. And then Portia.
Present.
I see a Jim on the call, if you could stay here. And then I see David Connors on the call.
Present. Veolia.
Thank you. I think that should be it.
Bill Ferguson. Thank you. Probably the short.
And Charlie Martirano.
Yes, present. Thank you.
Thank you. And this time I'll pass it back to Mr. Sunderland.
Thank you, Connor. All right, board, we have a pretty full agenda in front of us this morning. If you would take a look at the agenda, and make any additions, subtractions, comments, or we will make a motion to approve the agenda.
Chairman, I offer executive session if you'd like to talk about litigation matters.
17, the session. And I would like to do one subtraction, item 14 claims. I'd like to remove that from today's agenda. We'll discuss that at the July meeting. Any other comments on the agenda?
No, I was just gonna ask if it could be adjusted a little bit, but someone just did see the whole, all the items.
I'm sorry, Brian, what did you say?
No, I said I wanted it adjusted so I could see all the items. It was cut off. So and someone did do that. Whole agenda.
Adjusted. Okay, it's fixed. We're good.
All right, board, is there a motion to approve the agenda as so amended?
Billman will move. Approve the agenda as amended.
Is there a second?
Second, move the agenda as recommended.
All right, so it's properly moved and second. Hearing no other questions, all in favor?
Billman, yes.
Who was first?
Billman.
Scott Billman.
Lombardo. Lombardo, yes.
Second.
Bill. Is Brian participating? You have a video? It needs to be on video.
I need to be on video. Yeah, well, I'm not gonna be able to be on video, so I'll participate this way because we have a quorum.
We can't make a motion.
Okay, so Brian, because you were not on video, you're not gonna be able to make any motions.
Can I speak on items?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so the agenda has been properly moved. Second, we had an all in favor.
Billman, aye.
Emily, I.
Sunderland, aye.
Lombardo, I.
All right, board, we're gonna move to item number 2, approval of the minutes from the meeting of May 14th. If you'll take a minute and look over the distributed meeting minutes that we have there for any additions, subtractions, comments. Board, are there any questions regarding the minutes that have been published?
Mr. Chairman, I just suggest that number 5, write the words together with on the right at the last line there. Approve, comma, together with, start together with.
Jack, you got that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, other than number 5 amendment there, is there a motion to approve the minutes as so published?
Billman second.
We have a motion and properly second. Hearing no other questions, all in favor?
Billman, aye.
Sunderland, aye.
Lombardo, I.
All right, thank you, board. We are going to move on to item number 3, which is the public comment period. So as we earlier stated, if there are any members of the public either present or online, you can voice that you would like to speak on a subject. We're giving you about 5 minutes to talk about what you'd like to talk about. If you are remote, raise your hand in the chat or come off mute and we will acknowledge you. Does anybody? Yes, sir.
Todd McAllis, please.
You want to come down here so we can? Morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
So thank you, board, for allowing us to come and speak to you today. I am Chief Todd McAllis for District Buffalo Police. This here, I know most of you have the presentation that EDOF are to you in front of you, but just to give you a brief background on why we're here. It is Gun Involved Violence Elimination. It's a program sponsored by DCJS, the Department of Justice. They allow funds to come in for CEPTED, which is Community Policing through Environmental Design. I am currently in E District and I've been there for a year and a half. And I reached off to EDOF Art and asked them to come up with a great idea to support the neighborhoods which have the highest crime volume. We looked at an area. Originally, my idea was to look at the tower, but I know the tower renovations. I then went to EDOF Art again, and they came back with an amazing project that I would like, they're going to present to you now. So I'll let them introduce themselves, and I'll step away.
Good morning, everyone. Alexa Nadris Wadjet of EDOF Art. We have a studio in the Tri-Main building. And we are a creative services agency, consulting agency. We have had the privilege and the pleasure to work with lots of local organizations, council members to create public artwork within the city of Buffalo, as well as Niagara County. We're really excited here to present to you this project that we've been working on almost a year. And it is definitely in the vein community. It's in the vein of recognizing history and looking towards the future.
So public art placemaking, that is our wheelhouse. This project is particularly special to me because I grew up 2 blocks where the water tower is. So I have a great history, a personal connection, as well as my family's personal connection there. As Kenton writer, I grew up 2 streets over from Colfax, Warwick, and Pembroke. Pembroke is where I moved over there, 1981, brand new place after my parents separated. And that tower was a beacon for me to find my way home in learning the community. So that was first and foremost, being that it was the landscape. It was so high for me to see it over there. So the project that we're proposing is a reflection of what was once on the top of that tower in 1908, which was clock, right? Signifying the time. There's also like an observation deck, sort of, et cetera. So we're bringing that down in the sense of, metaphorically speaking, 12 seats or 12 structures, right? For respite. Also, it reflects the 12 hands on the clock, which is pretty obvious. Depending on when the sun hits these places, then it becomes a sundial, right? So it's like all these layers that we're trying to get into, but more importantly, it's about community, right? So there aren't lines, there aren't rows, it's a circle. So if you think of a circle as restorative justice, for people to have conversations, for communities to gather, there's churches there, there's a pool across the street, there's a school there, there's Burgers down the street. There's several places around there and directly connected to the community that they can have access to that will be ownership of their own, as a placemaking.
And on the east side of Buffalo, there are no significant public art structures. And this is something that people can have ownership towards. And to ensure that they protect their community, we are creating alliances and collaborations with Burgard High School. A lot of kids walk down Kensington and Greider to get to school, to get from school to wherever they're going. So if we have that connection between the Burgard High School students and the welding department, so they can create a center sculpture within the circle, it's that ownership that makes people want to keep their community safe, right? We've done public artwork and murals in the past, and there's been 1 or 2 instances where people will paste signs up there, and before we even find out about it, the community has already taken action, and all of our projects are focused on community engagement, and this project as well. We are going to make sure, along with the police department, reach out to the community members, the homeowners, the schools, the businesses, so they can also take an active part in this presentation. And we will definitely have all designation so that people can find out more about the project, find out why we did it, find out the history about it, and all the different parts about it. And we've already submitted to the Buffalo Arts Commission. They have asked questions and we've provided responses. Oh, and they are 12-foot, 7-foot, 7-foot peacock chairs. Does anybody remember the peacock chairs in the 1970s rattan? These are gonna be made out of stainless steel and they're gonna be very durable. They are perfect for public art, for long-standing weathering and maintenance and things like that.
Question, so I think when I read in your proposal that these chairs are gonna be backlit.
They're gonna be lit from the bottom.
So that's, sorry, go ahead.
No, just, so you're gonna be running underground electrical. Where would you be pulling the power from?
It's gonna be coming from the city. We're working with Sherry Electric. We've already received approval and the commitment to maintenance. Yes.
So the city would be paying for the power for the church. The other thing is, looking at your schedule, it's an ambitious schedule, especially pouring concrete this summer. And then obviously over the winter time, starting the construction of the metal work, is that correct? So when are you looking for approval of the concrete?
So the approval of the concrete, we actually want to get started either late July, early August, so that can be complete. We don't want to do concrete or try and excavate during the winter because the ground is going to be way too hard. The benefit of working with sculptures and stainless steel, those can be installed at any time. All we need to do once the concrete is poured and cured and it's been sitting there for a while, drill holes directly into the concrete, sink in rods along with epoxy, and then install the chairs at any time. We want to make sure we kind of do this on that level because again, the scheduling, the fabricator, we're not sure of. They work with a lot of public art in Buffalo right now. And we also want to be able to have a good timeline so that we can do an unveiling in the spring or summer next year.
Any other questions?
I just would like to note that we do have some major vultures plans, 36-inch main, right, Michael? And in the event of a catastrophic failure, I do believe what would be building would be at risk if we had to repair.
Do we know how deep it is there for those you know outlined? We're like about 4 foot.
So the excavation near that, I think, is something that would have to be considered.
There is where those run.
To get that infrastructure out of the way,
There is,
Relocation of.
the 36.
hold on, there's quite a bit of the facility that has no infrastructure on it. But a lot of the property does have infrastructure, so we would definitely have to make sure it would be far enough away from anything.
So you think it can work it, but we just gotta make sure that it's not over that utility line. I guess.
Correct. It definitely can't be over it, and there is a risk if there's a failure of
Based on proximity.
that
So
proximity.
I have a couple of questions based on that. One, can we have someone's contact information so that we can understand where this infrastructure is? So we can make sure that we are not near there.
Peter Merlo, who's our.
Let me grab you up.
engineer.
Okay, thank you.
And then the second question is, historically, have there been any issues on this lot of land with the infrastructure, anything that historically could have happened or something as in maintenance goes, something that you expect per se, if I can frame it that way?
So our piping is older.
Right.
We don't know when it'll fail or not. There is maintenance that's done to it. We have no projects in the near future that
Impact them.
impact anything, but
Okay.
it could fail tomorrow.
Right, right. How often
And-
do you do maintenance?
Whenever something breaks.
Oh, okay.
Repairs it.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, so if there's anything over, one of our mains and we have to get to it, we will dig up, like no questions asked. So that's the rationale for wanting to make sure it's located in the right spot.
Perfect.
New tower, is that off the table for a new tower?
Again, I don't know if everything was off the table. The board has considered a sites to add additional storage, especially if there's could provide benefit to the area. But at this point, there's nothing concrete on there on the table. So I don't know if you can preserve that right for the distant future or something like that. But again, I can't tell you, hey, we have plans, but Mike, that has been in discussion.
I just don't want them to put something in and then all of a sudden
No, I know.
want it back.
This is the point of discussion.
When was the last time you, actually had maintenance performed on that?
Been a while.
We're always maintaining the line. That's a part of our 36-inch loop. And typically our large mains, and I'm not gonna would have been very strong asset. So really that infrastructure is maintained. Mike's shop goes out there, maintains the valve, we can shut it out, we can isolate it. That tank is out of service. However, that tank, the board just made an investment to stabilize that structure. Really, we know the value of the community. We did the roof, either last year and this year, we repointed it, we painted it, and just kind of left it. Because the tank's out of service, it's valved off right now. So ultimately, as that tank get replaced, we're looking at that, we're looking at the status of our other tanks, but the structure itself is stable. And, right now, that tank is not in use, but the network piping through that facility is an active line that is regularly maintained. We don't believe there's any issues. We can actually look to put that on a rehabilitation schedule. We have an active program where we maintain our large mains, we take them out of service. We go in there, we put internal joint seals in there between the joints, you rehab the valve. So that's something the board, we're always looking to continue that program. We've hit a lot of them so far. This is one that we can, but again, you can never rule out the X factor. And we just want to make sure everyone understands that.
Yeah,
Does
okay.
that make sense?
Yeah, we understand.
So at some point, we may be able to understand what that looks like.
Well, I can send you a map real quick,
Okay.
over in detail. I'll show you at least the line, and then we can actually go out there and mark it, so we know exactly where it is, so you can see that. Mike, we can work on with our locators to get that marked in the field so they can see it. We'll get it flagged off for them.
Oh, that'd be,
That'd be beautiful.
okay.
Okay.
I want another question. So who would be doing the major contracting for construction, electrical? Is there a not-for-profit that's doing that?
So.
Insurances, all that?
So all of our work will go through our nonprofit in terms of a pass-through from the grant, the Buffalo Police Department and the GIVE grant. Culture Inc. is our nonprofit, as well as our fabricator is Rigidized Metals, our electrician is Shearer Electric, and our cement person is Phoenix Enterprise, which is a contract with the county.
you said you'd been back and forth with the Arts Commission already?
Yeah, so we presented last month and we provide them all the information, so we're just waiting on a timeline for when they expect to give their approval. Funds are not coming from the Buffalo Arts Commission, so we just need their stamp.
Yeah.
We also have a letter from, council members and Everhart just in support of the project as a council member of the Maston District. Just knowing the importance and the beacon of this lot, for example, how people have flocked to play football there, how they have, it's been a place.
Community since been there.
My gosh, it's always been there and people always see it. They know how to identify it by location and it's just, it's really special. Special place.
Just the way to give it more reverence. Everybody knows where the water tower is. When you say the water tower, now what is the reason to go to the water tower?
Yeah.
Outside of just, so that way with community event, there's 12 seats, right? Along with the grass. So now there's a place for us to designate, destinations, so to speak, for a reason.
From an ownership standpoint, the real property, facilities on the real property, who has HUD?
I don't know completely.
Water board.
I am Charlie Martirano, the counsel to the, so what I would recommend here is a referral to the Department of Public Works in concert with GHD Consulting Engineer and Veolia Water to just analyze all the issues. And in the interest of time, with the view that ideally they could report back to the board at your next meeting in July and be able to make important decisions. And know what the Arts Commission has done and whatever else. I don't know if the commissioner, if that's okay with the commissioner.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, just so we get sort of the global look at it. Property, if it's available, yes. What's the future consideration? We don't want to necessarily put a system at risk for something in the future. We do have thoughts to use that, so we wouldn't want to stay okay and to the point and then, hey, we're going to put a different water storage facility there, so we'll have to move that on you, right? That would not be the intent, so. One of the questions I might have would be funding, so does the grant agency fund the entirety of the project, or?
Yes.
Partial funding, or?
Dollar.
Okay.
Everything from the electrical work to everything is covered.
Yeah, fantastic, okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like that plan, Charlie,
I
to,
will still give you the locations on the deed though, because that's no matter what, that's,
Sure.
I think we can work on that because you have all the information. We're gonna get that marked out for you either way, why we proceed with that other discussion.
Who would maintain it?
Maintain the work.
Like cleanliness, no, like after it's all in? Like who's cleaning the benches, who's?
One, the community definitely, but two, there's really not much maintenance in terms of the sculptures because they're stainless steel. For example, the seat be concave. Concave. So
And
that there's
we'll
no
have-
water.
They'll have preparations in the design, like doing intentional design to have preparations, so that way water, snow, whatever will also dissipate with it.
Including in subset funding, there's maintenance, to make it provision. So we also have funding to have for the upkeep. We have to do something. So with the funding, there's even
Yeah. And the lighting is LED lighting, so it's very minimal power that's being utilized for the lighting. Yeah.
And
And that was the intent.
and there's gonna be an access cage, a part of the assembly, right? So that way you don't have to lift an entire chair up, but it's just an access panel. Only, being able to be access to, replace anything if necessary, as far as the lights go.
Scott, to your question, when the water board was created in 1992, City of Buffalo gave a deed to the water board for the properties where the water towers are. However, we don't know without examining the meets and bounds description, the total extent of that. Peter, obviously you may know.
I looked at the SBL numbers that the board owns. This is one of them that's under the board's purview in terms of those dimensions, just like that property would be without the city right away. And we have an SBL number, and if you search it and you actually look at the record, Buffalo
Sure.
Water Board is on there.
That's fine. It's always, how big is the envelope? What fits in the envelope? What's outside? That's all.
Charlie, we'll verify that too, to make sure.
Thank you.
so per our council, we're gonna refer this to the Department of Public Works and our engineering team to look at all of the aspects of this and hopefully in our July meeting with some answers, and you will have some answers back from the Arts Council also.
You have my email, I'll be the conduit of, Okay.
And would you like us present at the July meeting, or will we just hear?
Peter can advise you if you need.
Well, yeah, I mean, we always encourage public participation, but if something, we may be in a position by that point, if all the questions are answered, that it's not needed in case you have something else going. So, but I will convey that to you as we move on.
Thank you all very much. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And your questions, those were amazing. Thank you.
Thank you for doing what you do for the community.
Thank you.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Okay, board, we're gonna move on to item number 4, staffing update. Mr. Murillo.
Thank you. Pete Merlo, Secretary to the Board Principal Engineer for the Division of Water, DPW. At our last meeting, I know myself, Doug, we met with the commissioner. Doug, do you have the final or kind of the latest numbers are in terms of where we are?
Actually, Doug Fultz.
Doug Fultz.
Veolia. I actually defer to Jennifer, actually our workforce development.
It's my turn. Okay, so, Jennifer Shostakowski with Veolia. Page 14 of our report, Appendix B, staffing, references, all of the positions and all of the, budgeted positions. So, we are at 126, which is actually 73% of, our planned staffing. I know that that was specifically a question, last month as to the percentage. So we're actually 93 of 136 staff positions. Just highlighting a couple of these as listed. So we currently have one of 2 chemists. An offer has been sent out to a chemist that passed the test and working with civil service right now to bring on that second chemist, allowing those positions to be full. Going down just to the next one, the chief pumping plant engineer. We are technically 2 of 4 positions because we do have one of those positions filled up to a different, covering a different position. And then within our filtration plant operators, we are 2 of 4. Our meter readers, as of today, we are 4 of 5, and come July 1st, we will be 4 of 6 with the new budget. So we are looking, met with Kellyanne and Louise, and they are in the process of searching through that recent test and making an effort to acquire additional meter readers. And then last one I will point out is the pumping plant operator. We are at 2 of 4, that's specifically at Mass Ave. So we continue to have the same staffing issues, but we are continually working with Nate, with Kellyanne, with Louise, and within our efforts to identify other pipelines, other opportunities, other ways to work through possibly the job specs or the way they're posted. We're trying to examine every possible area. Additionally, in these communications of open positions, modifying the website to include those and working with local organizations like Western New York Waterworks operators, AWWA, to ensure those job postings are also communicated on their websites to get a deeper reach. So that's my report. I welcome any questions. Then I pass it back.
Any other questions on staffing?
Title civil service,
Yes,
100%.
yes.
I just had a question on the vacancies in the operational needs. Are we at that capacity, Commissioner? Like, do you feel that, are you comfortable or are we looking to hire?
We're looking to fill vacancies. So, yeah, I mean,
To what point? 100%?
I mean, ideally, yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're not taking any positions, you know,
I
out of the
didn't know what
mix.
the vacancy savings were. Wanted to see if it was something that we wanted to pursue or we wanted to
Well, I mean,
keep the savings if we're operating out.
Well, I mean, for instance, I'll probably maybe, Cockers, which is I don't know, with the mic. So Cockers, our role that goes out and repairs all the water main breaks, among other things. So when we don't have enough to respond, we hire contractors. We'd love to be able to use those internal forces. We don't have that capacity. So, we're forced to pay additional funds from a contractor perspective that we could handle in-house. So as one example, we definitely get those, but other key roles, we need those fills for operating perspective. And Peter, you could talk about the operator side of it
And I guess my other question too is it cheaper to use the contractors or is it cost effective or do we want to fill all these vacancies?
Well, you know,
I can see costs and everything else, right?
to be honest, that's an excellent question, and we've never been in that position. Our challenge has really been trying to fill the basic positions because marketplace wise, competitive wise, it's very difficult now in the job market to get new candidates, to get people to come in, to get the commitment for someone that will stay with the firm place 10, 15 years. So we have been really trying to work and just keep things together. We have done an excellent job of working with our operators. Tim, you're talking about the positions that are required by license to operate the plant at 24/7. We're working, and that's some of the stuff we're working with the MOU and brought that in there. In terms of a caulker position, that can be replaced by a contractor. And in terms of the cost, I think you can look at the benefit. The problem is right now we're obligated by union contract no matter what. So we have to offer that work to our caulkers. I think Mike would love it if he could do more in-house. He's doing the best he can with the guys he has.
Well, I don't think we can replace them with contractors as far as fixing water main breaks, putting in fire hydrants, replacing valves, yes, but our day-to-day valve operation, working with the public, you can send a contractor to run out and find out why somebody
It's
doesn't.
more than just repair the mains.
Correct. So we still need a staff. We're barely getting by with what we have today, but we do make do with a lot of contractor support. We'd love to have more people, but we need qualified people. Not a lot of people are interested in doing this line of work, which makes it hard, because they
Probably
don't
one of the toughest jobs.
have a lot of interest.
Hey, this is Brian Gould. How many, and is Caulker gonna be water utility worker effective July 1st? Hey,
I hope so.
Yeah, I
do
believe
too.
that, yeah, I believe that change going into effect.
Change the title.
how do we make that so it does go into effect?
So we're gonna work with civil service. We had a meeting with Brian Dickman, president of the union, to talk about it as well, so. So we're moving that along.
Certainly fits in more with the scope of work that they do. Number two, how many Caulkers are open right now? Future water utility workers, how many positions are open?
14 to
I was gonna say
16.
15, I thought at the top of my head, so.
I believe there's 13 Cocker positions and 2 Cocker supervisor positions currently vacant.
And those have been vacant for quite a while, correct?
Yes, sir.
Correct.
So we could probably say the reason is starting salary.
No, I think it's more about the work rather than the salary. They start out at a much higher salary than most. They're probably one of the highest paid laborer in the city.
What's their salary to start?
47,
37,
40, 47.
47.
And they max out, I want to say about 56.
56. So
And
that's
that's no-
from some,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, is that from steps they have and
There-
they maxed out?
They have 5 steps. They increase every year from the starting date. And, there's an abundance of overtime just due to the system. And,
And also because of the vacancies, right?
no, the overtime's not driven by vacancies at all.
So if we don't
It's-
have enough water utility workers, you're gonna tell me overtime is not driven by, if we have 8 of them working and they don't wanna work overtime that day or every day of the week, that's not driven by that at all?
No, they are a Monday through Friday worker. Obviously, if a break or something runs past 4 o'clock, that's when they work. But,
And if
Or
you don't
they're
have enough
pulled in
that
it.
wanna work, correct? I mean, doesn't that come into play? The same
I'm
guys are
sorry?
just working overtime. What I'm saying is, I would assume that, it's abundance of overtime. Usually when you're full staffed, there's not as much, but then it's the same guys that are taking it. I mean, I would assume that the vacancy rate has something to do with, the overtime that is out there. I mean, if there's not enough water utility workers, they're not probably getting the work done in an 8-hour shift that they would normally get done if there was more.
I think it's an input, right? I mean, it's not a direct one-on-one relationship, but yeah, I think there is some input to it, Deputy Mayor, to that point, so. But it's also a matter of, if they're working and the break, and they haven't finished,
Yeah,
it's
sure,
forced to
sure.
continue.
Yeah.
The request is to come back, right? So we don't force an overtime return to work. So there's a challenge there.
right, there's not regular day-to-day maintenance being ran on overtime because we're not getting it done during the week. So overtime is strictly emergency based or scheduled workload. Maybe we can't shut down Main Street Monday through Friday at a certain time. We have to shut it down after hours due to businesses or hospitals, schools. So there's some driven overtime, but that's part of the system. There
Okay,
is
well,
no overtime driven due to lack of hawkers at this moment.
at this moment, because you're only using overtime for emergencies. So I guess then let me ask this question. Are we getting as much maintenance done during the day
No,
than we would if we had a full staff of water utility workers or caulkers?
no, we are not.
We're
We are
not
getting-
getting enough done currently, and yes, we would be able to do more if we had a full staff.
We are prioritizing the work that we do, just to keep the system going. Nothing really proactive. We're all reactive.
So, and I might have misspoke by using starting salary. However, you know, these guys are the guys that are out in the elements, underground, digging ditches, whatever, to get to the mains. So again, I talked with the the Commissioner of Public Works about this, not only for this title, but other titles outside of the water board. From mechanics to other titles in the city's inventory, it's an issue. We're not getting people in the building. Engineers, I think we have two throughout the entire city portfolio. So this is something that I know the mayor is looking at, and Commissioner Martin and folks over there. We want folks to look at as well, because I understand the union implications and things like that, but we may have to start to structure these salaries a little differently to get these folks to a higher earnings point. And for the union standpoint, they're still going to be union members. If we were able to fill the 13 water utility workers, they have more union members. So we have to look at this a little differently moving forward.
Yeah, exactly. The salary, it's a great point, Deputy Mayor. The salary does play into the ability for the city to get certain positions filled. No doubt.
Yeah.
Mechanics could go make a lot more money somewhere else than coming to work in our shops, period.
Yeah.
We're not able to be competitive, so, yeah.
Residency is playing a big part in this specific title. We have a lot of interest with people outside of the city, but not inside the city. So people are not willing to move into the city to work a $55,000 a year job. Prices in the city have gone much higher.
And isn't there also a general movement away from these types of positions, labor in general, right? Not union positions, but labor in general, electricians, line workers, right? Mechanics, diesel mechanics. There's a lack of some of those workers in not just the local level, but a regional, national level. And diesel mechanics is one for sure. I know the NFTA struggles with it, we struggle with it. It's an industry issue as well in some cases.
Well, and contractors in the field are making about 150,000 a year. So they start with us, and if they're good, they're poached. So.
Yeah.
It's something to look at then, Chairman. If I can look at
Yes,
some of
yeah.
that too also. Some of the unions and stuff like that.
Okay, any other questions on staffing?
That was it. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Brian. All right, board, we're gonna move on to item number 5, water budget. I believe this is Mr. Ferguson. Bill?
Good morning, I'm Bill Ferguson, City Accountant here. The water budget is presented for your review. The fiscal 26 budget is highlighted on the right-hand side. A couple notes is that there's things are pretty tight. I mean, I'll start off by saying that it's a very tight budget. One thing that we looked at this year to avoid rate increases or revenue increases are needed. One thing that we did this year, we put in a $3.6 million reserve for unfilled positions. That's the first time we've ever done that. Normally, we've always budgeted the full amount as a transfer to the Water Enterprise Fund, but as we just discussed, there's always unfilled positions. So we estimated around $3.6 million of payroll won't actually take place, but we do. The Water Board and the Water Enterprise Fund is fully funded. But outside of that, we're looking at a total, the revenue is needed. We're looking at initially, when we looked at this in February and March, we're anticipating a total rate increase that needs to take place during fiscal 26, whether or not it takes place July 1st, October 1st, January 1st, that will be up to the board. But that also is predicated on the later the rate increases are put into effect, the higher they'll have to be to make up the same amount of revenue for the fiscal year to meet the board's debt coverage standards. Cash has been low right now. Right now we're looking at total cash as of today is about how much? Let me 1 second here. I just had that. It's around $14.5 million. O&M the O&M cash that's usually we use as our reserves is only about $10 million. We're hoping to reimburse around $7 million from the next bond sales of money that was spent out of O&M. There has been some question of whether or not I am not 100% sure that $7 million can be reimbursed. We're going to throw that over to our bond counsel, and we're hoping that it can be. If it can't be, that raises another question. Other than that, it's the expenditures were all based on historical amounts and amounts that came over from Pete and the folks for the infrastructure work the repair and infrastructure work that needs to be done out of operations.
Board, are there any questions regarding the budget as so presented? Is there a motion to accept the budget?
Philman will move to accept the budget as presented.
Emily, make a second to approve the budget as presented.
Hey,
Bill, may I just make a clarification? The motion should be to approve the budget. Your seconder was correct. The board needs to approve.
right.
Thank you.
Yes, so we have a motion and a properly second to approve the FY 26 budget as presented. Hearing no other questions. All in favor?
Thomas, aye.
Hanley, aye.
Donovan, aye.
Sunderland, aye. Debbie, you still there?
Yeah, Bill, actually, I was on mute. I'm sorry. I did have a question and I can't vote anyway, so I guess it doesn't, I can ask it after.
She can vote if she
Okay.
can
No,
vote.
this is Brian.
Yeah, I don't have access. So, is it okay? Did you guys do the item?
Okay, so yes, the item's been passed. Brian, did you have a question on it?
Yeah, I just wanted, and again, I apologize. 'Cause I can't see it in front of me. The arrears, I mean, what is the status of arrears? Or as this year and then I guess overall?
It's not on the budget. It's not on the budget.
Arrears, unpaid bills.
Isn't that on your report, David?
On another report.
The Veolia report.
Yeah, I'll let the folks from Veolia answer that.
Mr. Sykes, do you have that available at your fingertips?
Pardon me?
Mr. Sykes, do you have that available at your fingertips?
The best thing to do is go into the report, Dave, which is on page 7 of the board report.
Please take us through.
Yeah, I maybe actually might be page 6. Pick up one more. I'll let you know, Connor. One more. Right there. That's it. Okay, so when you talk about collection, the aspect right now is that we're bringing in about 92% over the course of the year based on what we bill out on the accounts receivable side and what we collect. And you can see that that's down from last year, which was at 95%. The big factor there would be the lack of those New York State funding programs that we had that would assist customers in paying their water bill. So you see there's a deficiency on the amount of money coming in. Connor, if you can bring it down a couple of pages, I'll tell you when. One more after this. This is perfect right here. You can see on this report, when you look at the actual accounts receivable that has to be collected, you would look at the top number there of million. That's what we have to collect from our customers based on all the invoices that we have sent out on the accounts receivable, less what had been received in revenue wise. So that was left over 27.9 million. And if you look down a little bit on the change of accounts receivable on the lower right-hand corner, you see the $27.9 million repeated. And that's because it tells you the breakdown of the daily amount of the aging of those numbers, of how many days those numbers, those dollar amounts have been outstanding. So that's the number right there, 27.9 million currently. That's probably up about $7 million from where it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So it's got progressively worse through the years. Does that answer anybody else further question?
Brian, did you have any other questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item number 6, the secret compliance and capital improvement plan. Merlo?
Thank you. Pete Merlo, Secretary to the Board, Principal Engineer for the Division of Water. My understanding is that the last meeting you approved the capital improvement plan as presented. But we need some follow-up seeker documentation to move this forward. I'm going to turn this over to Charlie Matarana, who asked for this item to be back on the board and kind of explain the reason why. I believe it's again to confirm and make sure we conform with seeker.
Thank you. Charles Matarana, the board counsel. This is a fuller resolution than what was presented before, and the resolution is basically just taking you through the fact that there is a financing agreement with the water board, the authority in the city, and the water board has typically served as the lead agency under seeker, which you agreed to do at the last meeting. And based on the recommendations from GHD and the analysis of the capital improvement plan, which by and large is just part of your budgetary process each year, and does not involve the creation of new structures or facilities. You're largely replacing, upgrading existing facilities, and the likelihood, again, based on the analysis that GHD usually does every year, there is no significant adverse environmental impact. And instead of moving to a negative declaration under seeker, we can generally classify the projects within the budget as what are known as type 2. And those are, again, the replacement or repair of existing facilities. And without creating, like I say, brand new structures that you would be building a new building or whatever that might be. And so that permits you, in essence, not to go through a more elaborate seeker review. And I just wanted to be sure that the board documented that as part of its decision-making process, and ask you to basically reaffirm or approve the capital budget in that context. And that the other component here is that the board typically, I think like Bill Ferguson earlier stated, may fund certain projects on its own or operation and maintenance, but might seek some reimbursement from the bond funding that you are anticipating later this year. And therefore, this resolution allows for that potential going forward, and as opposed to creating a new resolution later on down the road to do that. And you are then, another component here, I think bring this to conclusion, is that under the financing agreement, whenever your capital projects are changing to some degree or other from what has been previously approved, they constitute amendments to the financing agreement. If you go to the financing agreement, there is an appendix A to that document that basically every year gets amended, and that adds capital projects to it and different dollar amounts. So you are staying in compliance with the financing agreement by continuing to have at least a 5-year plan. This is a 6-year plan. And so you're in compliance with the financing agreement, and you're also, in a sense, being the first of 3 to approve. That is, the Water Finance Authority must approve the capital plan as well. and the city common council has to do it as well. Somewhere along the way, there will need to be a public hearing with regard to the overall capital improvement plan. Sometimes that has been at the common council, sometimes it's been at the water board meeting, just a function of like your public comment period, or it can be a standalone type of session. But we will need to plan for that, and the resolution envisions that as well and authorizes the secretary to go forward as necessary to publish a notice of the public hearing and otherwise to move forward with this plan.
So Charlie, if I state this correctly, we're looking for an approval for the resolution for the seeker, for the capital development. Capital improvement.
Exactly.
Because we've already approved the capital improvement plan.
You are in essence reaffirming and reapproving.
The capital plan is actually part of this resolution.
Right.
So we're
Correct.
approving the original.
That's right.
So is there a motion to approve the resolution for the adoption of the 2025 capital improvement plan for the State Environmental Quality Review Act? Bill will make that motion.
Hanley, I'll second the motion, adoption of the 2025 capital improvement plan and state environmental quality review act.
Properly moved in second. Hearing no other questions. All in favor? Bill and I.
Hanley, aye.
Sunderland, aye. Okay. All right, we're gonna move on. I'm sorry, we're running a little bit late here today. Number 7, the structural retainer, Mr. Merlo.
Yes, Peter Merlo, principal engineer and secretary of the Buffalo Water Board. In front of you is a letter from Wendell to increase the structural retainer, a contract with them for $150,000. We work with Wendell. They are a retained structural engineer because of all the brick and mortar at our facility. And as we're working to make the capital improvements necessary to stabilize our structures, i.e. the roof project that is part of the $80 million bond sale, we have been doing basically babysitting of our infrastructure. And anytime there's brick reporting, anytime we have an issue, we call Wendell, who's the structural engineer, come out, help us evaluate, help us maintain that facility, make sure it's safe, and then make sure it's dealt with in a proper fashion. So as you can see, these are some of the things we've been working with. We just like to continue. We have a little bit of money in the budget, but this gets me to the end of probably next year. We'll probably be looking to re-RFP this, but again, this is just the second year for their 3-year term. Money is in the budget. You'll see a budget amendment following as I believe it's going to be item 11, where I'm moving bond funds around because all the expenditures that were committed to in the last bond sale have been completed. We have a little bit of money and I work with Bill Ferguson to move it in the correct asset category. So I'm using existing funds and basically using as much as I can now because these projects have to happen. They don't have to delay these until the next bond sale because I'm basically squeezing every penny I can out of the existing funds. So don't need to add the budget amendment will take care of that. Any questions on the work itself?
What was the original?
75,000. And we've increased it a couple times during that, and we've increased it before, Bill, and we were doing 50,000 increases, and the previous board asked to come because now I'm coming every other meeting. And it's basically what they're doing for us, it's the chimney, it's the stabilization work. Sometimes there's bracing you're gonna see at the plant so it's a continual. So the board asked me, hey, let's get a year's work here and just kind of assign those funds. So we're able to budget. And now we're looking for the approval of that to amend that contract.
Gotcha. Great, thank you, Peter.
Peter, Brian Gould, is it an hour? What is the retainer base? Is it hourly or how's that determined?
Yes, it's hourly. They bill per hour per their billing rates that were submitted. And basically it's all inclusive with their multiplier, as all our contracts with consultants are.
Yeah. And did you used to be on retainers with these guys, whether it was monthly or not to exceed, based on their past work, based on their scopes of work that they determined? I mean, based on the hours that they did put in, was there ever thought of going to more of a retainer based format?
The way we've been doing this is originally allocated amount for such services as needed, and they build against those, and I just come back to the board to increase this. So it's been working very well in terms of getting them out there. It's just been adding to that. So actually, the term contract, the rates
Okay.
are set, and it's just basically giving more hourly. And obviously, we approve it. If there's any time that money isn't used, all our contracts are going to a per diem base anyway. So basically a not to exceed, Brian, so we can kind of oversight it. This is just to make
Okay.
sure I have budget in there that I don't have to come back to you. All of a sudden, I need to call Wendell out there because we have a crack in the floor or something. I don't have to worry about them saying, well, you know, we don't have the money in the budget. I want to be ahead of it. And we budgeted it for this. And again, we're just moving the final money around to make this happen.
Yeah, and
That
I
makes
apologize.
sense.
This stuff could all be in these documents from the board. I just don't have access to them right now. So if there's answers to my questions in those, I apologize.
Oh, no, no questions. We have answers.
Any other questions regarding this? All right, is there a motion to increase the structural retainer contract with Wendell in the amount of $150,000?
Hanley, I'll make a motion to approve the additional $150,000 for Wendell.
Bill, second.
It's been properly moved and second. Hearing no other questions, all in favor?
Hanley, aye.
Bill, aye.
Donovan, I.
Sunderland, aye. Okay. Properly approved. All right, item number 8, the water cut restoration contract time extension. Mr. Merlot.
Yes, thank you. Peter Merlo, Secretary to the Board, Principal Engineer for the Division of Water. In your packet, we're looking to extend the contract time, I believe, from August to October 15, 2025. We're looking to maximize this contract. There's probably what, 600,000 left in it of what? So we're looking to make sure that these cuts are restored. This contract is basically to handle the cuts and basically to fully restore the cuts per the section that we work with DPW, so our roads are back and properly restored. We typically have, I think, 300 breaks a year, plus or minus. Our annual expenditure for cut rehabilitation has typically been about $2 million a year, including engineering and construction phase services. That is budgeted. The next bond sale for next year, we have the design already approved. We'd like to continue this. The reason this contract has gone over, and we're working with the contractors, not because the contractor's lack of performance. A contractor actually picked up additional work on an existing project where we're doing the main replacement of Parker Avenue that elevated as a need. So we're working with them. So I'm asking, the contractor came to me, I think it was a reasonable request. And at this point, we don't approve it, you know, that money just doesn't get spent and those cuts don't get repaired. So we're looking to extend the time. This is a no-cost change order, time extension. However, there is going to be a subsequent increase in item 9 that I will discuss later for the construction phase services. But this item in and of itself is a zero-cost time extension request. Yes, a water cut is when you have a main that has a break. Waste Crews goes out there, they rehabilitate that main to its useful life. They come back in there with stone and a temporary replacement of that asphalt. They maintain that safely. We come out there under the capital program, we remove 12 inches, probably 14 inches of material. We put back a full depth section, multi-layers of stone, asphalt, and that pavement is now properly restored. It will not sink, it will not be depressed. It has a 2-year warranty on that. In case anything happens, we'll call the contractor back out there. We typically, the board, 4 or 5 years ago, we were probably $300,000 or $400,000 behind in cuts, probably a couple of years. Now we've caught up. We're actually doing a great job. We're working with Mike. I think Mike, we try to get him the next season. So
Not sooner. And it's not just for water main breaks, it's for valve replacements, fire replacement, fire hydrants, service line, whatever we need to do.
and it includes driveways, curbs, any disturbances to infrastructure. The bulk of it is in the pavement.
Okay, any other questions?
I have a question, Bill Hanley. Question on this. I see there's no increase for this contract, but is there any, and it's a lead into a question for number 10. Is there any extra costs, inspection services? We always send the inspectors back and they now bill us for extras going back.
Yes, item 9 will be that increase for additional inspections, so we can make sure our inspectors verify payment. We make sure the work is done. there are eyes and ears out there. So there will be a subsequent increase in item 9, but for this item, it's only an increased time. But I am gonna be asking for increased inspection services.
And I'll have a similar question on number 10, but okay.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the time extension request for Wendell to October 2025?
Billman will make the motion to extend the employment contract to October 2025. Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and second. All in favor?
Billman,
Sorry, that's Nova's contract.
Yeah.
Is it Nova or is it Wendell?
No, it's Wendell recommending it for,
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you for clarification.
thank you.
So let's try that again. Is there a motion to approve the no cost extension for Nova Site Construction to October 2025?
Billman will make the motion to extend the Nova Site Company LLC contract through October 2025. Donovan, a second.
It's been properly moved and second. I hear no other questions. All in favor?
Billman, aye. Donovan, aye.
Sunderland, aye. All right, now we're gonna go to item number 9, the water cuts restoration, additional CA and RI. Mr. Merlot.
Thank you. Pete Merlot, Principal Engineer, Secretary of the Buffalo Water Board. Item 9 is an increase to Wendell's contract, who was a designer and oversaw the construction, provided the construction administration and the construction inspection. All our construction is monitored with full-time inspection. We have an inspector, typically 99% of the time from the firm that designed it. They out there, they make sure that work is done according to the plans and specs. They recommend payment. I don't recommend payment directly unless I have that from the contractor or from the consultant, because at the end of the day, I don't negotiate with contractors directly. I need my consultant to make that recommendation. They're the consultant of record, and they need to be there full time. So our budget typically includes, when we look for funds, we look for construction and construction inspection funds at the same time. So the additional funds that I have in there are available by managing the budget. We're looking to ask for a budget of a not to exceed $56,000 to allow for the inspection of the cut contract to continue through October 14th. Any questions, board?
So this agreement, with Wendell, it was from 2023.
Yeah, it's their current contract number, and I think they actually titled 2023 because that's when they were designed, but actually it's being constructed now. So there is sometimes, I don't want to get caught up too much in the title, but Scott, it had its own 8-digit contract number for this. And we're amending that specific contract to add these services. They're already out there right now. We have them until August. We're just trying to get ahead of the game. I hate waiting till last month and say, if I don't have it by next month, we can't. So in case there's any questions, we can. But again, I'd like to get this done, approved, and wrap this project up and get these cuts done.
Any other questions from the board? Is there a motion to approve the Wendell contract for CA and RI to October 15th, 2025, the amount of $56,000?
I'll make the motion to approve the additional engineering services for Wendell for the 2023 citywide water cut rehabilitation contract, not to exceed a total of $56,000.
Billman, second.
Been properly moved in second. Hearing no other questions, all in favor?
Hanley, aye.
Billman, aye. Donovan, aye.
Sunderland, aye. Been approved. Okay, item number 10, various locations, additional engineering services. Mr. Merlot.
Yes, this request is for Clough Harbor, who was the design and construction oversight engineer on our various locations 2 project, which is now complete, been properly restored. This was a lot of water main replacement in and around the central terminal. There was also a bore that was done under central terminal to provide continuous flow on Curtis Avenue. The project complete. The reason for this extra is at the end of the job, we worked directly with the central terminal to locate some main and to eliminate some dead ends in the community on central terminal property. So we work with our legal, we have an easement in progress, we're able to do this work under the contract. But we weren't sure this was gonna work, was gonna get done. If we didn't have the paperwork in place, we weren't gonna be able to get our contractor to do. This contract was going to end next construction season or last fiscal year, no matter what. We were able to get the work done. They performed the work. Clough Harbor had modified the design. You'll see a little design change in there, but the bulk of that is for the inspection of that work that occurred. And really, I'm glad it worked out because at the end of the day, the benefit is to the community. That's what it's all about. They got dead ends there. They no longer have dead ends. They are connected now. And we were able to get this work done under the existing contract and have to wait another 2 years for the next contracts to come out. So at the end of the day, this was a success. We knew this was coming. We didn't, no, I think we're anticipating about 60 to 70,000. So they are within the anticipated budget for this last and final increase to this contract for those services as stated. Any questions, board? I know it's a lot of information at you. A dead end is on a street that doesn't have a connection. 90% of our system is looped. So what you have is you have multiple feeds. So if water has a dead end, it only has one way in. If water isn't utilized on that, if the homeowners aren't utilizing that, it gets stagnant. If there's a loop, you may not have to use that water. That water is going to circulate naturally through the loop. So making that connection gives an alternate feed and really helps the water stay fresher, stays cleaner. We don't have to monitor. It gets a headache off of Mike's back, who monitors all our dead ends to make sure if there is a drop in water quality or in the chlorine residual, you go out there, your crews flush those to keep those fresh. It's just really helps to both benefit the community and benefit our operations.
What's the pressure?
Yeah, also an increase of pressure. Now, it doesn't increase static pressure. What it does is it increases the residual pressure. As people lose water, if you have a dead end, the pressure is going to drop. The higher velocity is going to drop faster. If you have two dead ends and you can provide that water, you're going to minimize that drop in pressure. So they'll notice it more at peak demand times, if that makes sense.
Shower.
Right.
It's like at my house.
Yeah, exactly. We did the more capacity on there.
Minimizes disruption in service if we're doing repairs or
You have all their feeds.
we might, if we shut down one street and it's the only feed, you know, street if that's a dead end. So it continues to feed them water, something else.
It's a good opportunity. Peter, I have a question.
Sure.
Help me understand, when a project was out for bid to a contractor, they give you a Gantt chart, they give you a timeline where they expect to be at certain times. Was the reason for the extra inspection because the contract would not finish on time?
No, the reason is two reasons. Number one, the contractor's performance was excellent on this. His biggest issue was, cleanliness during the job, not work performance. So we just stayed on top of him. However, Bill, there was a couple of things that we had to add to the contract. So he actually did us a favor. So we're on the hook as much as anything for increasing that contract time. We added additional work because there was funds in the project. We also, I mentioned we did a bore underneath the central terminal. Well, not to get too far into it, initially that bore had to be readjusted because there was utilities that were anticipated. So those receiving pits and installation pits had to move out, which means we needed to have more HDPE piping. We needed to have that redesigned. So there was reasons that it happened, but at the end of the day, the contractor performed to what we believe, and he got the job done.
Yeah, I'm just.
And he did additional work. Those dead ends were not anticipated in the original contract. They were added based on the unit cost in the project.
Yeah, I'm just not in favor of the water board paying extras for somebody else's delay.
Definitely in it. To be honest, that's one thing, and we work with the Commissioner of Public Works. If we have that, we hold our contractors accountable. I look at FLOT all the time. If they're not performing, we're not going to increase their schedule. So when I come to you, I've already been convinced myself that we're good. It's not the contractor's performance. But at the end of the day, that doesn't mean that we can't defend you. We can't explain to you why we think that that's the cause. But Bill, that's a great question. We got to make sure we hold our contractors accountable.
Thank you.
Yep.
Or any other questions from the board?
Peter, Brian Gould, who internally does that? I mean, on your end? We have inspectors, how is that performed?
Well, what'll happen is, we'll work with our consultant inspectors on the particular contracts, and if all of a sudden they're not performing And if they're not looking and we're looking at the schedule, all of a sudden, we can start making some noise, we can start working with them. But at the end, they technically, Brian, unless we have faith in the contracts, and sometimes we do, a lot of times they can look at their schedule and say, hey, I got time to do it. And at the end of the day, it's you're either our ultimate hammer is you're holding liquidated damages. And if that isn't enough, you can always pull their bonds. However, I can't tell you up to this point, we've been encouraged by our legal to try to make sure we work it out with every contractor. Because if we go down that path, work stops and no one benefits.
Yeah, and I mean,
Kind
I'm
of like,
assuming
commissioners,
some,
kind of like walking a fine line there.
yeah, and sometimes I'm assuming they are under the consultant, like, let's say, are they subs sometimes, of a larger consultant?
What's that? No, I mean, they're the contractor, consultant has a separate contract, they're our inspector. So if our inspector's looking out at me and say, hey, listen, they're doing it, they're just taking longer, there's a lot of utilities they're performing. If my consultant is coming out there, hey, they haven't been out on the job for 2 weeks. Okay, what's the issue? Let's bring them in. Let's talk to them. Hey, what's the issue? How are you gonna meet your timeline? It looks like it's gonna be delayed. They do have to submit a schedule as part of the submittal process. So once that happens, we have a schedule that we can at least bring them in and try and hold them accountable to.
Yeah, I guess what I'm asking is, I mean, when you just said, so is the consultant separate? I mean, you say if a consultant that inspects, or like for a job like this or for some other job, I'm assuming that there's a lead consultant and they sub out, and then are they responsible to make sure the contractors are performing?
Typically, with the jobs of our size, most of the inspection is done from the consulting. They provide the inspector and the construction administration and payment recommendation based on their design. Typically, they only have to sub out if there's services that they can't handle internally.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, is there a motion to approve change order number 3 for CHA Consulting, Inc. in the amount of $75,859?
Henley, I'll make a motion to approve the change order for item number two. Change order number 3 for the extra work not to exceed $75,859.
There a second?
Second.
Been properly moved and second. Hearing no other questions, all in favor?
Henley, aye.
Aye. Sunderland, aye. Been approved. All right, we're gonna move on to item number 11, the budget amendment. Mr. Merlot.
Pete Merlo, Secretary to the Board Principal Engineer for the Division of Water. As I mentioned before, we are shifting, I'm asking to shift funds. This is existing bond funds from the last bond sale, and I'm just asking to shift from a category that we have excess funds because those projects were completed into the 2 asset categories I'm looking to fund the projects mentioned above. The first one is an allocation from the system storage and pumping asset category, $150,000 into the Carnivore treatment and pumping plant. That is to pay for and fund the structural retainer contract, because that work is at the Carnivore pump station. The second transfer for $7,000 from that same asset category, system pumping and storage, into transmission distribution. That will, along with the existing funds in there, allow me to complete and pay for change orders. I believe it is at 8 and 10. So at the end of the day, then those will be depleted. The controller will be happy. We have no arbitrage, and we're waiting for the next bond sale to keep going forward. But at least we've kind of used every bit of funding we have available. Any questions on the budget amendment?
But does that leave anything in the system pumping and storage? Or does it sweep?
No, there's probably maybe $11,000. I didn't transfer it all. I just did what I needed. And I may not be able to get down to 0 in those, but I'm gonna get to the close will be a couple $1,000s. And either what I will do is with whatever remainder, once in the fall, when we have contracts bid, I will incorporate the rest of that asset category, which it'll be a little bit, just to close it out, clean it, and then the rest of it will come from the new bond sale, if that makes sense.
Yes. Thanks.
Sure.
Any other questions? So, is there a motion to approve the budget amendment moving, $150,000, from the account that's noted there to, I don't know if do I need to call out the?
Oh, you don't have
numbers?
the, here, I'm sorry.
Do I need to call the account numbers or no?
I don't think so.
The category one has it on there. Anyway.
This is an amendment that applies to this fiscal year, not the budget that you just adopted.
Approve the budget amendment as presented.
Okay.
Yes.
So is there a motion to approve the budget reallocation as stated, from the system pumping and storage into the Colonel Ward treatment and pumping plant? $150,000, and then a budget amendment, $7,000 from the system pumping and storage into the transmission and distribution.
Billman will make the motion.
Do a second?
Second.
Been properly moved in second. Hearing no other questions, all in favor?
Billman, aye.
Donovan, I.
Sunderland, aye. Thank you. All right, we're gonna move on to number 12, the engineering retainer agreement. Mr. Wall.
Stephen Wall, local GHD. I will defer to Peter if you prefer, or I'm happy to take it.
No, again, Pete Merlo, Secretary of the Board Principal Engineer. You can see attaches their engineering retainer for GHD. But the board is required by creation to have retained engineer GHD, legal counsel, Barclay Damon, NRA consultant Lisa Foti. It's been a great team up to this point. This is the agreement. Their contract is always by fiscal year, and it's something that is approved and been allocated in the budget. Retainer agreement, you can see what they do for us. There's a whole bunch of things, and Stephen, I may just turn it over to you to articulate some of the things you do, but not only do they look at working with the board to oversee and make sure our relationship with Veolia and we're maximizing that contract. They look and are handling a whole bunch of initiatives in terms of looking at payment plans, working with our customers, working with our lead services. So really, they've absorbed a couple different roles, but they are the retained engineer and the observation oversight, to make sure our relationship with Veolia. In case anybody has questions, it's documented, it has backup to it, it's defendable. Stephen.
Thank you, Stephen Wald, local GHD. It's been an honor and a pleasure to work with the board for many years. And as Peter said, I think we were originally retained to fulfill the board's obligation to have a third-party engineer. In that role, we give our opinion on a periodic basis with regard to the system. This is supportive of the capital plan and your sale of bonds. That's another part of the role that is required when you go to the market. A big part of it, as Peter mentioned, was added to the retainer when the Water Board in 1997 entered into a management agreement with the private operator. And since that time, part of our duties is to work with the city, the Division of Water, to oversee that contract and make sure those contract items are being performed satisfactorily and report to the board on that. Subsequent to that, over the years, because the board doesn't have staff per se, and the Water Board is looking to initiate improvements to modernize its system in many different ways. The board from time to time has called on GHD to do a host of things. In the letter in front of you, I've included a number of them. There are actually many more. And in the past year, I would say we included several $100,000 of pass-through to subcontractors that the board was looking to retain services for in the areas of PR and community outreach and some policy making. We have removed those from the proposal at this time so that the board can reconsider those items moving forward and, you know, maybe reset on some of those things. As you all well know, in this transition period, we've also filled the gap just administratively. which we're happy to do, but also that, you know, moving forward, you're welcome to try to find economies in that space as well. The contract is a not to exceed hourly. So we work generally at the direction of the board itself or the commissioner, or sometimes his delegate, Peter. So we, you know, we operate under their direction. So I'll pause there in the interest of time, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to speak to them.
Say, from my perspective, board, they've been a great partner, along with Violi, along with Charlie, and all of the team here in terms of helping us, you know, handle the issues that we have, handle and, you know, try to have constant improvement.
And Peter, Bill Sunderland, I will second your comments there. And especially, Stephen and his team at GHD have been so amazing, literally, in this transitional period that we've had here and keeping the board, moving forward. So,
Well said.
Stephen, thank you for your many years of help, not just recently, but the many years that you've been part of our team. So, are there any questions from the board? All right,
Yes,
Peter.
yes, this is Brian Gould. So Stephen, and it's just so everyone knows, I've known Stephen for a very long time. GHD is probably one of the best firms in the area. Stephen also, as far as his services that he's provided for past mutual clients and things like that. But Stephen, so the hourly rates, when you say the staff item, right, based on your hourly rate, what is that right now?
Brian, there's an attachment to that. You probably can't see it. Can you see it
And
now?
I'm sorry.
There it is.
It's up on the.
So I can
That's where I'm going.
comment.
Yeah, and I don't really even, I probably have a ballpark, I know where it is, but where I'm going is this is something more for the board, and unfortunately, probably, you know, and I'll take responsibility for this too, just I haven't been able to get as engaged as I wanted to, but probably should have looked at this, or Nate with you, or Commissioner Martin, I should say, is staff. You know, I think Stephen hits it on the head based on some of the services that they're providing. They're probably in addition to the scope that they have, and they are, you know, more administrative services. And we're probably paying, you know, quite a bit more for those services through GHD. No fault to GHD, because they're needed. Someone has to do them over there. We just don't have the body. So, you know, we really have to look for something, I think, as far as dedicated staff. What that is, I don't know, but directly to the water board. You know, GHD is putting together things that, you know, for board meetings and other things that they should, you know, probably really be focused on. And in turn, you know, we could get it, you know, more cost effectively. We can get that stuff done. So it's something, again, to put on the radar. And I think we really have to start looking at this stuff.
Brian, I agree, and I've shared that opinion with other board members, and I'm happy to work on, you know, improving and transitioning those types of things moving forward as the board settles in, most definitely.
Yeah, and again, Stephen, that's nothing, you obviously no, you know, anything to do with your work of GHD or you. It's just trying to get things, you know, done a little more cost effectively that, again, will probably add it to your scope of work.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, is there a motion to approve the engineering retainer agreement for GHD for the period of July 1, 2025 through June 30th, 2026, and the fee allowance of $500,000? Your motion?
Make a motion as presented.
Billman second.
Been properly moved and second. Hearing no other questions. All in favor?
Billman, aye.
Sunderland, aye. Been approved. All right, we're going to move on to item number 13, the legal retainer agreement. Charlie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Peter, is this something you want to address, or you want me to just?
Sure, I will take it.
Whatever you want.
And Pete Merlo, Secretary to the Board Principal Engineer for the Division of Water. This is really part two, of that, what I mentioned earlier. This is the legal portion. Charlie has worked with the board since before I have. He's been an invaluable instrument in terms of guidance, in terms of working, in terms of the calm voice in the room. So I can't tell you, the relationship with Charlie has been great. This is a typical agreement, I think, that we do every year. We've increased the budget amount this year, 200,000 in anticipation. So again, Charlie, I'll kind of turn it over to you, but I just want to say thank you for all your services over the years.
Well, thank you. Charlie Martirana, counsel with the Barclay Damon Law Firm. As you may know, many years ago, the Corporation Council issued a request for proposals and qualifications for legal services. We responded, and the board selected us to be the legal counsel at the time. And we've had the, as Stephen wisely said, the pleasure and honor of serving as your counsel over the years. We certainly want to continue that relationship. And in our scope of services, we are fairly broad. So we encompass a variety of matters like advising the board on ongoing agenda matters. We have been involved in contract negotiations, working on easement agreements, real estate matters of various types. We've handled environmental questions that have come along, as well as compliance with things, for example, like the Public Authorities Accountability Act. We have worked in coordination with Veolia Water and need help to negotiate that agreement that you have in place currently, as well as prior agreements. In addition, we have been involved in a variety of dispute resolutions and are currently serving you with regard to 2 litigation matters that have been in place now for several years. So our law firm consists of about 300 attorneys, so I'm not alone. And even though you usually see me, but I call on people in our firm to assist me on a variety of matters, and their hourly rates is how we usually bill. Excuse me. They range all over the place depending on their expertise, their years of experience, and so forth. And so their ranges are usually somewhere between $220 an hour. Some of our folks go up to $600, $700 an hour. So we have tried to strike a balance over the years, and we have provided you with a blended rate that we go for this coming year at $360 an hour, and that basically avoids the whipsaw of higher rates and, obviously what could be the lower rates, but gives you a constant so you can budget properly going forward. And we use legal assistance as well, and their hourly rates are lower at $200 an hour. So where we can use them, we certainly do, particularly on more repetitive matters that don't involve a lot of legal expertise, if you will. And that's the long and short of it. We have a not to exceed number in our agreement as you have budgeted. So we are able to move forward, and you can keep a budget. And obviously, when we get close to that, we will certainly advise you, we work through Peter and try to keep things within the budget as best we can. The uncertainties, I must say, about litigation, some months it has been higher as far as what we put forward, and other months it's been lower. So that kind of throws things into uncertainty, but we try to keep that again by reporting to Peter in particular and the commissioner about where we are. So that's the long and short of it. Glad to answer any questions, and we thank you very much for your consideration.
Charlie, I just want to say from the board and working with you for many years now, appreciate what you and your firm brings to the water board. Valuable.
Thank you.
And I've had experience with Barclay for years and with Charlie on matters involving the water board and other collateral matters. And I can attest to their zealous representation of all the funds, including.
Thank you very much.
Andy, I have just one question. There's a nation clause for them to start or end date. Should there be a date on here? Is it an annual?
We go with the fiscal year so that we basically are, excuse me, as of July 1, that rate. And, we're gonna sign this ideally today. And, I mean, we can certainly put in, but it refers to fiscal year. Yes.
At the fiscal year language.
I think there is
Some
something.
just in it to section 8.
Right.
Something like probably billing rates.
Yeah.
Effective at the client's fiscal year.
Yeah, beginning of the client's fiscal year.
Yes, thank you. So it's on page 3, 8B.
Second line.
Any other questions?
Is it a big deal to put that for Bill's comment? This is Brian, sorry. Just to put July 1 to June 30th? Does it do anything as far as adding that to getting that done today?
He wants us to add the dates like July.
July 1st.
July
Just for
1st.
public purposes, not everyone knows what fiscal year means, so if it's not a big deal, that can just be it.
Thank you. We can certainly do that.
A good day to be a consultant at the Buffalo Water Board today.
All right, is there a motion to approve the legal retainer agreement with Barclay Damon in the amount of $200,000 for the period of July 1, 2025 to June 30th, 2026?
I would just say it's not to exceed.
Not to exceed, yes.
We'll make that motion with the addition of the term.
The fiscal year.
Yes. Second. It's been properly moved in second. Hearing no other questions, all in favor?
What?
Handley, I.
Sunderland, aye. Been approved. All right, we're going to move down to item number 15. This is the monthly report from GHD. Stephen?
Thank you, GHD. Stephen Waldvogel, GHD. As many of you are familiar, we've been working a number of areas. I will just highlight a couple today, and then, of course, I can take more time to go into detail as necessary. So we've been working to support the board in terms of developing the capital plan, which you approved this meeting, and also preparing for an imminent bond sale. So that's one of the things that I've been assisting Peter on. We've also been working closely with your rate consultant to monitor and record the expenses as we approach the end of this fiscal year. You made some transfers of late to close out the fiscal year and cover all of the ongoing expenses, and we are watching that carefully. We're also in tune with the revenues as they're coming in, so that with the rate consultants next month, we can bring you a fiscal plan for next year, okay, for the fiscal year, which unfortunately, as was mentioned by Bill Ferguson, there will need to be some increases in rates and associated fees so that you can generate sufficient revenues to make your bond covenants. So we're working closely with both Veolia on that, and Peter and the rate consultant. Also, I am pleased to say that the same team is working on a number of revenue enhancement initiatives. Veolia has been driving that. And we've been trying to assist in that because nobody wants to raise rates unnecessarily, and wherever we can find additional revenues, there is a plan that's being worked out. Several of those initiatives will be brought forward soon. I think some will be very productive, and I'll let Veolia cover that if they want to say any more. I'll also give Dustin just a moment, maybe 30 seconds, to update on some of the ongoing projects at the facilities.
Thank you, Stephen. Good morning, board. Dustin Steiner, GHD. We're continuing with the Colonel Ward Electrical Improvements project at the facility, installing the necessary designed motor protective relays in the high service pump MCC area. We are continuing the berm flood mitigation project wrapping up some punch list items and continuing with the modifications and installation to the plant's current outfall 006. And as Stephen previously stated, I work very closely with Kelly Lieb, Veolia, David's staff, monitoring the monthly invoices and expenses of which Veolia is undertaking. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you, board.
And board, in conjunction with that, because we're working with GHD, I'd like to actually bring up something that this, we're working with Centennial Parks on an area of our pipe yard or of our store spoils pile where we store material from breaks. This was based on a commitment from the previous board to share 20,000 square feet. I believe we still have to work to confirm the details with that, but Commissioner, I don't know if there's anything you want to share from, I know you've been working with the Centennial Park individuals on this.
Yeah, just a portion of that property, as Peter mentioned, that we would transfer from the city/water board to the Ralph Wilson Park Conservancy as part of some of the space needs that they've requested to help support the park. So we've got a meeting with them, I think, later this week to go through it, but an 80 by 250 portion, which does not impact our operation. We've got to do a little movement on our side, but does not adversely impact the operation. So it's, we think it's a reasonable request and we're with the process.
You know, Charlie, at some point, I believe we'll be intimately involved when we work out the details, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of legalese in there.
Yeah.
We love legalese.
Commissioner Brian Gould.
Yeah.
Will that be deeded over that section?
You know, originally it was talked about just having an agreement to share, but did that position change, Commissioner? I don't know if that.
Yeah, we probably want to think about what the best, yeah, as Peter said, we were going to do was a kind of a just, you can use our driveway and kind of use that portion, but I think from a liability protection standpoint, we want to separate it from us, so there is no impact on, you know, the water side or city side if something happens on that person, so.
Yeah, we should talk offline about this.
How we're approaching it may change.
Yeah.
Sorry, Brian.
No, I said we should just talk offline because obviously the park is, you know, it's a lot of the city side thing as well as what we're dealing with the folks that are doing the project. So
yeah,
just like to brief the mayor on that as well.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, we're gonna move on to item 16, the monthly report from Veolia Water. David?
Yes, sir. David Hill, Veolia Water. Take a minute and cover some activities that occurred during the month. Start off with production operations. Right now, we're currently doing our annual basin cleaning. That is going well. We're nearly completed one basin. We've been utilizing Buffalo Water staff. This work this year, due to some staffing difficulties, we used a considerable amount of contract labor to do this. We have had the labor come in, got them trained in the basin, and they're performing the work this year.
It's going very well.
Going very well so far.
Can you explain the basin?
A basin is an area of the treatment process where we add our coagulant to the water. That forms flock, which pulls the dirt out and settles on the bottom of the basin. So we're essentially removing 4 to 6 feet of dirt, mud in the bottom of a concrete.
How many basins are there?
2. And fortunately, they're not self-cleaning. And we've, let's put the labor down there.
Remember we looked out there, remember those blue motors that we looked at? Those are the 2 basins basically underneath there.
Sure.
Area.
About the flocculant. Yeah. So, yeah, I wasn't sure if that was inside or outside the plant, the basins.
Outside the plant, but underground.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very difficult to see unless you have a key
space.
Okay.
Additionally, we're nearing getting all the permitting and insurance completed to perform the 48-inch main repair street and upper terrace, major P to the south side of Buffalo. We have to go through extra hoops working with CXS and the railroad to.
You have all the entities in one spot.
Get in position.
That was possible. All our worlds could have collided right there.
It's been a team effort, but we're nearly there. Another area I want to mention, the board's invested in a preventive maintenance testing program at the onset of the new contract, and really there's several examples, but one recent example of how that has really yielded benefits is that, we've incorporated testing our major assets in real time. We do vibration testing, we do thermal energy, imaging. We have tools we can connect into the motors and it tells us the motor integrity. And all of this is basically to alert to a problem and fix it early so you don't have a big expense. Just recently, we did that on number 2. We had the motor company come in, they interrogated the unit and they said, your windings in here are starting to fail. So we're pulling that motor, we're gonna send it to the motor shop, they're gonna clean it, they're gonna bake it, they're gonna dip it, and it'll be like brand new. Had you not done that, you run it to failure and it goes another 6 months, you're talking $500,000. You're buying a new motor. There is no replacement. So just want to point this out. This program that was put in by the board is paying dividends. And that's just an example. Other areas, customer service, considerable amount of work going on as far as the IT infrastructure. Just recently integrated a meter reading platform. We use Neptune, and it was some old software that we use with readers that the guys go out and read, and they link to the computers, and we send out the bills. We were operating on some software that was rather old. Neptune has come in and we've totally retooled it with the latest Neptune software technology, which allows us to perform reads in several different manners. We can use cell phones now, tablets, it offers, we're now in the modern century, let's just say, as far as the ability to read meters. Now, not all of our meters are capable of being read because they're not that smart. You still got to go manually read them. But the point is, we've got some good software, the latest and greatest cybersecurity. All of that's built into it. We also are converting a brand new phone system down there, converting our VoIP to new era communications. We're going to have, our hopes are to have, be able to provide more customer service. We always saw from an emergency contingency perspective, what happens if Exchange Street goes down? Got a railroad track right there, things could happen. We now have a method where we could nearly pull the agents out of Exchange Street and put them anywhere and perform. It's never been able to do. So I'm going to leave it with that. In the interest of time, you got some more matters to discuss.
Yeah, just Brian Gould. On the meters, do we have, what is our inventory of meters that are out in the field that, we have remote? Do we have any with capabilities of that?
We have touchpad and some are drive-by. Touchpad is you physically have to take a wand and touch something on the meter cover. We do have drive-bys, some of them. Most of our industrial accounts, you can drive by with a computer and it'll pick up a Wi-Fi signal.
Yeah.
So major accounts, industrial, I'd say yes.
Residential, no.
All our commercial are integrated. Anything 3-inch or larger is on, I believe, a monthly drive-by read. Smaller meters in the field are blended with integrated starting from 2011 till now, as well as we still have a lot of wired touchpad reads. So we have a mix of everything in our system.
Was there ever analysis done on like the cost to go to remote, or, it's on the residential side to where it's drive-by or whatever, it's, these could be done, God, in a couple of days, a week, potentially. Has there ever been a cost analysis done for what it would take to remeter residential?
There's been a basis of a study. The biggest obstacle to establishing that is obviously establishing the integration hub that you're going to use to pull this data in. And we virtually got to replace every meter in the system too. It's not just a matter of backplane. Talking probably
Maybe
the neighborhood
remetering.
$70 million would be my guess.
That
Would
would
be
be,
an educated guess to do that.
Electrical, it's the only one I use. That,
Yeah.
Nobody else did. It's very expensive.
The issue that we have is getting into the homes. Probably 2/3 of our customers let you in, let you do whatever you need. And then you have another third of people who are very difficult.
Yes.
So getting in to replace that meter to make it a full AMR or AMI system where you can automatically get the reads without having readers. It's been difficult. So I think keeping the meter readers to do as much radio. We did some testing on the meters back to the beginning of time, 1999, to see how much loss and stuff was happening, and we're not getting much loss on the older meters. So I think we took a slower approach during replacements. Because I don't think the loss was there in comparison to what the new meter cost is to go.
so, I mean, are most
The
of
large
our-
meters or?
The smaller.
The small meters, yeah, but we're looking at it on the large, right?
Yes. On the large meter, we are looking to, start to change out some of our turbo meters as well as compounds to go with the Mach.
That's
Mach
not
meter.
that's not an accuracy issue. That's just capturing low flow.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the study done years ago where they were gonna have one company go and read the gas, the electric, the water, all the meters, but the cost was $1 million a month, and that was years ago. So nobody jumped on that. So,
Yeah, I mean, well, listen, there's older utilities that have pre-metered to go remote. I guess that my next question is, on the billing side, are most estimates as far as water usage?
Your question, are there estimates?
No,
What
are most-
percentage of
because- okay,
billing are
because are
actual
most of the
reads
bill,
versus
as our billing, are most of our bills on residential, are they estimated?
We are, okay. We are reading commercial accounts monthly. We're probably at 96%. I'd have to look in the board report. We're reading, residential accounts every quarter. Those are coming in at about 60%, Brett.
Well, that was.
You're trying to hit,
And so the other is estimated. I mean, there's a considerable amount of estimates going on right now because and have been going on for 3 years due to manpower not being able to obtain the readings.
not having enough meter readers.
Yes,
Yes.
We need more meter readers.
period.
Yep.
And it's coming.
Are we trying to hire?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
Because we're losing revenue, right? I mean, obviously. people
absolutely
paying
we are,
for the
absolutely we're losing
the
them.
meter, so I think that would be the highest.
Well, they're still paying, they're just getting an estimated bill.
Right.
Over us.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you an example then, so that we're still paying. I had a 3-unit condo building on the west side of Buffalo. I didn't have a meter read for 13 years. And I would have given access to anybody. So my bill went from on average of about $275 a month. And then all of a sudden, the first read in 13 years, I was about to sell them. It went to over 1,000. So in my estimation, that was loss that I should have paid the Buffalo Water Board because that was water usage. It was an actual read for over all those years.
Sure, they said that we are overestimating the costs right now.
What?
Right?
I'm just giving you an example of I'm giving you a real life example for me. I dealt with David Sykes over at Water.
We couldn't estimate you. You've never had a meter, right?
I had meter, yes.
Oh, you have meter, huh?
Yeah.
Can't
3-unit
explain that.
condo building, one meter.
That
3-unit
sounds
condo.
like a clerical error at the time of putting in this.
I'm just, yeah, I mean, there's just,
And it never
to
showed
me,
up in the
I
system,
agree
but
with
we never read it.
board
That's
member
one
Donovan.
thing.
I think
We're
it's fair to
losing.
say there's all sorts of variables related to the meters. We've got several different meters in the field. We've got several different reading systems. Estimates can sometimes be always an estimate, right? Could be high, could be low. I think Veolia as a whole is exploring what some of the opportunities exist with the commissioner, with Peter, with everybody around the table to see, what opportunities exist from a revenue standpoint to help resolve your specific example and other examples, both
It's
on the
not-
high and low end.
Yeah, this is just my specific example. I look at meters as the cash register. They're the accurate usage of a customer. So as accurate as we can get those throughout the city of Buffalo on the residential side is better for the organization, for the water board, as far as revenues go.
Yeah.
I'm using that example, because that's.
100% agreed on that. I think it's one of the, 17 elements of sort of that
Yes.
revenue capture,
Right,
program
right,
that we've been working on, but hit the bigger fish first, smaller fish second, but I think it's part of that larger topic of what's the
Sure.
ability to capture revenue better or more of it.
Anything else, David?
That's it.
All right, board, thank you for your patience. I'm sorry we went a little bit long today. We had a lot of stuff to cover. Before we go to executive session, the next meeting, which is the second Wednesday of July 9th, 9 o'clock. Plan on having it here in the mayor's conference room. Is there any conflicts for the board members that date? Currently. And also, that meeting is generally our water board annual meeting. We go through the compliance survey, election of officers, committees. So it is our main meeting of the year. So anybody have a conflict for July 9th? Brian?
Gone.
He's gone now. Okay. All right, so we're gonna go into executive session, so we're gonna need a motion to go in executive session. And then when we'll come out, we'll need a motion from out of executive session and then come out of the general meeting itself. So, can we get a motion to go into executive session?
Hanley, make a motion going to executive session for litigation claims.
Bill in second.
Okay, it's probably moving in second. No questions, on favor?
Hanley, aye.
Bill and I.
I'm doing that. Anybody else, then you can.
We can get out of here.
Dominoes. Thank you, everybody. Sorry, we went on.
Lots of good conversation. Do you anticipate next month's meeting being